Wow. And here we are. I mean, I feel like today's a pretty good day. What do you think?
Well, I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
you have Jesse, Michael, and myself who haven't changed our clothes since Container Day.
I haven't gotten out of this seat yet.
Right? We've just been stuck
Hilarious.
here. So,
We've just been sitting, waiting for the next time to go live.
Right.
Man,
for those who wonder,
let's talk about Container Day for just a second because that was pretty awesome. That was Tuesday. It was a couple days ago, and it was our day zero event from KubeCon, and it was the first time for us to ever do a live show for 8 hours straight. And wow, I don't know what I
Yeah.
was thinking when I said we should do that. Like, that was ridiculous. It was fun. It was cool. There was a lot that happened, and it was great, great content. Everyone, you should go check it out. It's on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/containers from the couch. Um, if you missed any of it, we've chaptered it, so now you can skip around and hit all the different presentations and stuff like that. Mr. Alex Smasha was there, so got to get a shout out from him, and good to see you again today. But yeah, I think I was a zombie yesterday from all of that. I was just like, my brain just, the heat sink wasn't working, and I overheated, and I was just like, okay, gotta shut
It
down
didn't
for a
show.
while.
It didn't show until yesterday. That was not pretty. But you and Adam did great. Everybody did great. That was an
Yeah,
awesome day.
you guys rocked. Amazing.
I mean, I didn't even do anything. It was all the presenters that, they had all of their material prepped. They had, all kinds of stuff. And I'm gonna just abbreviate a story real quick that Michael just told us backstage before we went live. Apparently, his presentation that he was giving, like, they were still spinning things up when we went live. Like, that's how something had happened, and they were like, quick, bring up a new cluster, which is great. That's a great cloud native story, but at the same time, I probably would have passed out if I had known that. Yes, while it was happening, I
in
would
the
have been
moment.
like, like, holy crap, I would have just freaked. So I'm
Yeah,
so glad I didn't know that that's what was happening.
keeping a straight face was the hardest part, right? Like
You did. Oh,
everything is
you did
fine.
so well. You're just out at the front of the plane, pulling the propeller down as it's going down the runway. It was so great. Nobody even
And
knew.
asking, do you want to have some ice with it?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that was awesome. All right, so what are we going to talk about today?
Images.
Wow. Jeez.
Images, yeah. And I think the bigger takeaway is really managing your software supply chain, and where do you get your images from? And this is something that has come up a lot lately in conversations. Like, I want to make sure that when it comes time to build my software, I have everything that I need right here at my disposal, ready to build. And if there's an outage or something, that's affecting me upstream, I need to be able to deal with that, or I need to reduce my risk from that. So we on the developer advocacy team we put together a set of tools to try and help you discover, where is your software coming from, your upstream dependencies. And then you can take that and you could potentially use that information to pull that stuff locally. So let's talk real quick though about why is this a big deal? Why do this? I don't know. Jesse, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah. Yeah, when I first got into software, it was, that we were burning CDs, and so we were etching things on stone. And no, I'm just kidding.
That's
But
hardware.
CDs, I am old enough for CDs, and like there was a whole job, release engineer. That was a career, and like part of that job was, of course, getting a build done, getting it burned to disk, getting it in FedEx, whatever. I'm just kidding. It goes off to ops, and they print 1,000, a million copies, whatever.
AOL
But the
CDs.
other part, yeah, well, CDs, and they come in your phone book.
Uh-huh.
Cereal boxes, I think. Actually, you could get Solaris in a cereal box, I'm pretty sure. But like the other part of that job that was really, really important was basically the interface from supply chain management, the influx of dependencies, right? I mean, whether you have, vendor libraries, you have various things that you had to link against, like they sort of owned that. And like I said, it was a career. It wasn't something that happened happenstance by someone else, along the way towards shipping something. And so we fast forward today, and we're using images. And I build an app. Maybe it's several services. We all build it together. Adam's got a service. Michael has a couple. You've got one. We kind of all build our own in containers. And I can build it, in my space, and Adam can build his, and they come together, and we can compose the application. And it's really cool because all of our dependencies are managed in the container image, and we can sort of curate this immutable build artifact of our service at a certain level or a certain version. We know exactly what's going to happen. But almost every single one of those, unless in the rare case that you're building from scratch, you're coming from a base image.
Right.
That's how we started building these things. They're layers, right? And so, not everybody has to go build Python bits and put them into a Debian image to then build your Python app. You can from Python. Cool. But we've lost the part of the story where it was somebody's job to make sure that you knew where those Python bits were coming from. You knew where that image was coming from. So part of building up a pipeline, of course, is making sure, yeah, you can procure that stuff and pull it into a central repository that you own, right? So, something we like to say at AWS a lot is you own your dependencies, right? If you invoke a dependency, you own that dependency. So one of the best ways to do that is to pull copies of that into your own house and just, you feed and water those, you take care of them. What's really cool about open source software is if you find a problem, you can push it back upstream and help the community, then you re-ingest as part of your pipeline. But it wasn't until I started working on registry in a former job, a public registry, where I realized that a lot of people don't do that. A lot of
Right.
people just pull from public registries and they're like, well, that's done for me. I'm just going to use it.
Which works
Yes,
a
you
large
got,
amount
yeah,
of the
of
time.
course it does. That's why everybody does it. It works. There's nothing that stops it from working. But you're missing a little piece of protection for future you, which
Right.
is that you don't own that little thing, and you don't have a process by which you pull that little thing in to your bigger collection of little things, right? You're just pulling the little thing, and you're like, well, I just need that, and it's going to come. And if there comes a day where that little thing disappears from upstream or it becomes unavailable, then you have an outage. And
Yep.
that's sort of the theme of like, hey, let's help everybody take a look at their cloud estate, look at, their Kubernetes clusters, their ECS clusters, even their source and their repos, and say, how y'all doing? Like, do you know where all your stuff's coming from? Are you taking care of yourselves? Because that's what we want for you. We don't want you to have outages. We don't want you to get surprised. So that's,
Exactly.
I think, sort of the framing for Michael's awesome blog. And we sort of came together and put some scripts together to help people see what's going on, make sure that they're okay.
Totally. And, let's talk for a second about, well, what could go wrong? So if you just think about when things work well, when things are working perfectly, get push your code and maybe a pipeline gets triggered to go and build a new Docker image based on that code. Well, if the very first line in your Docker file is from Python, with some tag, or from Ruby, or from Node.js, or one of those, main big public images,
Hmm.
then you have an external dependency. And when things are up and running and fine, not a huge deal, right? You probably haven't even noticed an issue. But when things aren't up, running fine, then all of a sudden your build breaks. And you
Hmm.
have to go research and figure out what just happened. Where did I go wrong? Because when your build breaks normally, it's a me problem, right? But this is a situation where it's not even a me problem anymore. But it's going to take my time to go and troubleshoot it and figure it out. And then on top of that, I then have to figure out, well, what can I do about it? Like if it's an upstream problem, there's not a lot that can be done right in that moment. So I don't know, Michael. Talk to us
Right.
about what that looks like and what could go wrong.
Right. So there is a pragmatic angle to it as well, and I think pretty much everyone out there has heard about this, reproducible build um, paradigm, or this idea that you essentially say, when I say a Docker build today here on my machine, the artifact that comes out of it should be the same as when Brand is doing it tomorrow, and Jess is doing it in 1 week's time, and Adam, he's probably already done it yesterday, because we all are big fans of Adam and all copy what he is doing. So it should
Time
be always
cop.
the same, right? Um, and that is true to a certain extent, and part of it is that you own your dependencies, because if you own everything and have everything under your control, then you can, and pin it down to the last version, then you can control everything, and you can guarantee that the build is the same. The problem with that is it's a bit like root cause analysis. You can always, ask why for a level deeper, and like, where do you stop, right? You need, at some
Right.
point in time, need to be pragmatic and say, draw the line, saying, okay, that is it. And this is a bit also kind of like risk analysis, or like, what are the costs that I'm putting in there? What's the risk I'm willing to take? If I say like, well, we've seen that, right? Oh, GitHub is down, Docker is down. Oh, okay, I'm gonna take a break. I can't work, right?
Ping pong
Or,
time.
well, yeah, exactly, right. And there's even I think, XKCD or whatever on that topic, like, oh, you're compiling, or whatever, or building or whatever. So you need, on an organization level. I mean, if you're like on your own, that's your thing. But on an organization level, what is the impact that any of those dependencies might have? And if you're happy with that, so like, okay, once a month, I'm happy with my development teams being not productive, or not capable, or able to, in a position to actually do something for an hour, then that's fine, that's cool. So you have to analyze that and see what risk you're willing to take. And like, what we want from our perspective, I believe, is clear. We want to make you successful out there, to make sure that you have all the information at hand to make an informed decision where to draw the line, right? Where, be pragmatic about it, but be aware of what the implied risks are. I hope I didn't
No,
scare anyone too much,
I
but just to bring it on a manageable level here.
I think someone out there might be thinking, or I'm joking, but hyperbole wise, we're not saying go write your own compiler and create your own language and you own all of it. That's not what we're saying. But I think, let's look at what are the options and what's easy. Like
Yeah.
if I can do something that's super easy that helps reduce my risk, then I should absolutely do
Oh, yeah.
that. And,
Right.
I
And
think
that,
that,
like, what, I mean, it's fun to build your own compilers, but you don't have to. It's not fun. It's not fun.
it's not
I'm just
fun.
gonna,
Yeah,
okay.
stop doing. If you
I'm
just
now I need
started,
to
go
now I
ahead
need
and
to go back to
stop.
therapy. No, so but no, but to your point exactly, it isn't so much about building your own things. Just like I said back in the day, it's like, well, you buy a libc from somebody, or it comes from the OS or whatever. It's not, you don't have to build it yourself, but you have to know where it's coming from. You have to take some ownership of it. So typically, like I said, I was always assuming working on a registry that people were just pulling stuff into their own private registries and doing their own curation. And that's the type of model that we'd like to see. It doesn't mean you have to build Python from scratch. It doesn't mean you're not going to pull things from public registries, but you're going to pull them in and take some ownership of them, in that state. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And
There's another piece of this too, that it allows you next level stuff like image scanning, image signing.
oh yeah,
You can
that's a
have a
good
chain
point.
of command. It's very common to have said a development toolkit that your teams use. Maybe you have a DevSecOps security champion that needs to kind of look at things and say, yep, I rubber stamp that. That's cool. So that by the time your developers are picking up a base image to work with, it's already been vetted by a few parties. Well, that's a reason to look at a system like this too. That can be part of your supply chain. You just bring it in house, vet it, do a little security scanning, make sure it looks good. Add a couple of pieces of software, rubber stamp. So
Nice.
there's a lot of aspects to this that can be really beneficial.
How about we not only talk about it but also show it in action?
Yeah.
I feel like we've already been talking like a long time, and
Someone is
people might
anxious.
want to see someone sweat.
Absolutely. So I'm grabbing the URL right now, and then I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
I'm gonna just get back to work on a compiler real quick.
That's right.
Right.
Okay, so what we did is we looked at, how to take the simplest question. How do you know what image your image is being built from? And of course, the easy answer is just look at the first line or at the from line in a Docker file. But at the end of the day, we might be working with a lot of Docker files, right? Our project might be many microservices big. So we ended up putting together a set of scripts that you might find useful. So I'm going to paste a link to our project in the chat. It's at GitHub, AWS Labs, and it's called AWS Container Images Toolkit. And super simple, super easy. But now let me just show you. We have different components, and one of them is a source component. So if I go to my checkout of Get AWS Container Images Toolkit, we'll go to source. So source is really designed to just show you, given a list of directories, run down the list and pick out all the cases where you might be pulling, where you probably are pulling an image from Docker Hub. And what would be nice about that is then you could take that list and bring those images in-house. And if you do that, then all of a sudden you have a little bit less risk because you have one less dependency upstream that you have to worry about it being up, reliable, etc.
And by the way, like I think we should just state that it's a great practice to bring those images in-house. I think it's a really good practice. But don't just have one person that their job is to solely, search for these images and pull them down. You should automate this, have pipelines. Anytime there's a change to that image upstream, this should be
Totally.
event driven, and you should be automating this in a pipeline to add your security controls and all
That's
that.
awesome. So we have in the directory, if you just wanted to mess with it, we have a test subdirectory that's just a bunch of Docker files. And if you just run detect images, then you'll see that all we're doing is we're picking out using the from line anytime that there's an image coming from Docker Hub. Now there's a caveat. To keep things simple, we wanted this to be simple and readable and understandable. So this is nothing more than a shell script, but it's not going to work if you aren't specifying a tag. So through pattern matching and all that stuff to be able to figure out where's the image coming from? Is it a library image from Docker Hub, etc.? We had to use, count on the fact that there's a tag. So be aware of that, but I think that's probably going to be the case most
Which actually could be considered as a feature, right? because not having a tag is pretty much a bad thing. So, if you're not using a tag, right, this is now your opportunity to actually
Absolutely.
apply some good practice, right?
100%.
But it is
So
what
what
it
can you do with this? And let me show you. This is our list here, but I just want to show you. I have a set of projects that I work on from time to time. I've been known to work on these, and they have Docker files. These are like full code, etc. But if I run detect images here, it works in real life too. And even the weird like crystal lang / crystal, way of describing the image that gets picked up. So, and it doesn't, the file name doesn't have to be strictly Docker file. It does have to start with capital D Docker file. But I, again, think that's kind of a pretty normal pattern. But what can you do with this? Well, you can do something as simple as, we're talking about in-housing these images. So step one might just be to pull them to your local, copy of your local workstation, so that you could then maybe next step push them to someplace in-house. So if you cut -F2 using a space as a delimiter, hey, now there's all my images, right? And if I do bash command substitution for image in command substitution, take that output, do docker pull $image, done. And at this point,
You're Unixing, man.
I know,
Look at
right?
that.
I'm bashing, but at this point, yeah, I'm pulling down all the images that I've found that I depend on upstream, and I'm just pulling them down locally. So from here, I can take this, I can tag it for, maybe an ECR registry entry and push to my local ECR. And then I would have, everything preserved inside my own account, inside my own VPC, be able to pull very fast, very quick from something that's very close by that I control and I own. So this is something that you could do, every time, like Adam said, every time an upstream image changes.
Right.
It's real simple.
And referring back to what we initially discussed, supply chain, right? If you think of, supply chain starting at the desktop of the developer, if you wish, right? We're starting here on the left-hand side, right? And having that awareness, having that insight, oh, actually, it is, let's say, 10% of my images or 90% or whatever, gives me a little bit of an idea, like how much work will it be? What should my strategy be around that, right? But really starting at the left-hand side, what is in my Git repos or whatever, and that is what you can do with it, right?
Yep,
That's really a first great step.
exactly. So then we were thinking, well, what about the stuff that might already be running out there in the cluster? And so, I don't know, Adam, you want to talk about what you have?
Yeah, let's do it. So, okay, so we've taken that, the kind of the flow. We've tested locally. We see we have our Docker files, our images pointing to all these upstream repos. Now, what about ECS? So I'm going to focus on ECS right now. So in this same repo, we've created a directory for ECS. And of course, that means that the detect images script in the ECS directory will actually scan your ECS clusters. And this is going to be based on the region you're in. So of course, your AWS profile, however it is that you're talking to the AWS APIs via the CLI, that's where it's going to talk to region and account and so on. So in my case, I generally work less with AWS profiles, and I usually just use environment variables, or like, for example, I'm in Cloud9, so I'm using an IAM role that's attached to my host to give me the access. So if I were to just run that detect images script, like Brent was doing, this is going to look upstream. It's going to look at my ECS clusters. You can see in US East 2, I have I have 2 clusters, and here are the images in each cluster. Brent likes to use cut, I prefer to just use awk. But if I wanted to just print that second value there of the output,
Nice.
I could as well. But again, this is it's Bash. There's a million ways you can do
The
this.
obligatory choke, how awkward. Right? That had to be. I'm sorry. Yes.
So there you go. So I can see these images. But now, what's nice about the script, and I think the intention here was, you as the user of this software, what makes sense to you, and so building around this is really flexible. So let's say I know that I have 2 regions that I work in. I work primarily in US East 2 and US West 2. Again, a nice little loop here. And what I'm doing is I'm just setting my default region environment variable to US West 2, looking at what images I have in the clusters there, and then I look at US East 2. So again, a really great way to just give you insight to see what images you're pulling from upstream. And by the way, in these clusters, I do have services and tasks running that are pointing to local ECR images. Those don't show up here because this is not
yeah,
looking
that's
for
a
that.
good point. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just looking for upstream. So, this gives me an opportunity to say, hey, I have these images upstream. Let's look at bringing them into our own automation, to secure, harden them as we see fit.
Very good point. So, thank you for mentioning that, because I totally spaced on that. Good point.
Yeah, when everyone on the team was first writing this tool and I was testing it for ECS, the first time I ran it, I had only ECR images in my cluster. I'm like, guys, it doesn't work. This is broken. and then I read the code. I didn't even read the code. I just told them it was broken right away, which is the worst anyone could do. And then no one responded. I read the code and I'm like, oh, I'm stupid. Sorry, guys.
Oh, works now.
Anyway, so that's an ECS demo. And again, use this as you see fit. You can, point to different profiles, whatever it is that works for you based on your workflow. It can fit into this because this is just a very simple script that's going to iterate over your clusters and give you those images.
Nice. Awesome. All right. Well, what about Kubernetes?
Yeah, what about Kubernetes, right? Let's have a look. So
you'll have to share your. Oh, there it comes.
Yep, there you go. So we essentially figured that there is another orchestrator out there called Kubernetes, and so we wrote something for Kubernetes as well. I'm using EKS here as one should, right? So I have a EKS cluster here, and if I'm here in the Kubernetes one, right? If I would just run that here, nothing happens because I don't have anything running. No image that is
no public images.
No public images there, but I can simulate that, right? So this is just to show, like, empty head beginning. Now we're gonna run a Nginx 1.19. So this is implicitly there is this Docker hub URL prefixed here. So we're gonna run that now that it's running, right? Yeah, pods. All right, there you go. It's running. And now if I run the detect again, I get the Nginx 1.19. Why is that important? Well, I might have done my due diligence on the left-hand side, everything in Docker or whatever, but there might be reasons why there are certain images running from somewhere else that might not be in scope. And if you have a bigger organization, you might not have full control over every last bit. So you always have to also look dynamically what is actually running there.
Yeah, and like Helm chart might have installed some things, That's
yeah. You simply, given these layers of abstraction, whatever, you cannot, if you want to do a good job, you cannot simply say by looking at your repo, yeah, I scanned that and found nothing there and I'm good. You want to do end-to-end everything, and that's when you're at the right-hand side of the supply chain where you're actually consuming images. That's why we support ECS and DKS here, or Kubernetes in general here as well.
Mhm.
And as you have seen with both Brand and what Adam showed you, really these scripts that we put together there are kind of basic building blocks. Of course, you can just use them and do what we just did there, running at it, looking at it yourself. But more usually, you would take them and use them in your CI or wherever. Use them as a basic building block and then do something more of it. Our thinking was that many people will run into the same issue, and it's better if the handful of us put our heads together and develop something, test something, and then many people benefit from that rather than thousands and thousands of people have to do it themselves. So that was the basic motivation.
Nice.
Yeah, and
There's a
just
side.
two
There's a
more.
side benefit. I'll just
Yeah.
throw a side benefit in there.
Yeah.
I tested this on my Kubernetes clusters, and I totally forgot not only about one of my clusters, but also about a bunch of stuff that was running. So
Yep.
it can be really beneficial that way too.
Yep.
Save some money.
Did you want me
Just
to pop
to-
your screen back in?
Oh yes, please. Yes, please.
Okay.
Just two related projects that I found quite interesting and stumbled upon in that context when we put that together. Essentially, think of it as a kind of extension. These are just two examples. You will find many more out there. That you can take and use to automate things here, right? To
Mhm.
synchronize images from Docker Hub to ECR. Right.
Yeah,
Just
so
2
the
pointers.
CDK ECR one is really interesting to me because it looks like it's just a CDK construct that picks up that you are using a Docker Hub image, and it goes ahead and handles pushing that into ECR for you. That's brilliant. I love just
Love it.
take care of that for me.
This one's really slick.
So just imagine you collect you could have automation where you literally grab all these images. That's an array. Now I iterate over that array with these constructs, and I have all these images. Boom, in my language, my programming language, done.
Yep.
Mhm.
That's so
I love
cool.
the
And what's
CDK.
nice that last one liner there is so great. Allow all accounts in your org to pull, right? Just boop, done.
Yeah.
What I love about this that was well thought out is that repo prefix, just like you said, Adam. Because I might have stuff on, key.io or Quay, as you might pronounce it. There might be stuff on, some random JFrog instance I'm running somewhere. Like it's really, it's pretty cool to have something so well thought out just there. It's really nice.
Yeah. And then that
And-
other repo that you have up there, this one is more of a not integrated with your infrastructure as code CDK, but just a Lambda that you can use to check on images upstream and then push them, grab them and push them into ECR. And this is
Right.
really cool looking too.
Mhm.
And I think all of those tools and these two really just two examples here, they might serve you as an inspiration what you can do, right? We have so many cool things, Lambda, CDK being two examples, things that you can just take and you can build, you can automate things and in doubt automate, right? That you do not want to do that manually. You will forget things. It's very boring. Leave that up to machine, right?
Yep, totally.
Amen.
All right, so that's our deal for today.
Short
We
and
just
sweet.
wanted to make
Short
sure that you understand that as fun as containers are and as easy as they can be, when something goes wrong, we want you to be prepared to handle it, and we want you to be set up for the best chance for success. So it's all about de-risking your setup, right? So that's what we were going for, and hopefully you found it interesting. Leave us comments in the YouTube comment box. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/containers from the couch, and we'll be back. Actually, we're going to take next week off because
Thanksgiving,
it's
yeah.
Thanksgiving here in the U.S. So we'll be back the week after with some new exciting material.
Right. I mean, we have reInvent coming up.
I was just about to say, is there anything special going on in
Yeah.
December? I don't know.
I've heard of that. So yeah, we should we'll definitely we'll have some exciting stuff to talk about
Oh,
during
I'm so
that
excited.
time.
So excited to talk about it.
Oh, I can't. I would love to, but no.
Writing a new compiler.
Oh, yeah.
No, Jesse.
That's
I'm
it.
not.
Right.
No, Jesse. Yes.
Oh, we have
Yeah.
so much stuff coming though. It's going to be really
Oh,
fun.
man,
Like
I
we're going to have
can't
reInvent,
imagine.
and then we're going to have 3 months worth of containers from the couch, pulling all the reInvent apart, and
Oh,
unboxing,
so good.
and it's
Yeah.
gonna be awesome.
I thought Jesse would say, and then we have 3 months where we all go and we are dead or we can't.
I'm gonna have
at
at least a few days.
I'm gonna
At
need to
least a few days
hibernate.
of sleeping.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
a few days.
Amen
All right.
to that.
Yeah.
So everyone enjoy their holiday if you have it. If you don't,
Have a good week.
Take one.
Enjoy
anyway.
our holiday.
Yeah.
Enjoy our holiday, and
we should do it.
we'll catch you back here week after next. See ya.
All right. Thanks a lot. Have fun. Bye now.